NewsX World. In other news we're tracking, we're now learning that President Trump is preparing to speak directly with Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro, even though the US has now labeled him as the head of a terrorist organization. This comes as the US has designated a Venezuelan cartel as a foreign terrorist organization, and the top US military officer is set to visit Trinidad and Tobago. Of course, officials are meanwhile stating that this signals that an operation is imminent. This is, of course, analysis coming in from the Democrats. We have, in fact, learned that the Cartel de los Soles has been designated as a foreign terrorist organization by the United States of America. Maduro has, in fact, responded to this as well. He slammed this as a ridiculous lie. This terror tag, he has stated, paves the way for an illegitimate military intervention. He's claimed that this is a bid to kick him out of power. He's gone so far as, in fact, denying the existence of this particular cartel. With us on the broadcast is Ms. Irina Zuckerman. Interesting developments as far as the Caribbean is concerned. A lot of Democrats are pointing out that Trump has labeled this cartel as a terrorist organization in order to sort of circumvent congressional approval to carry out strikes in Venezuela. To what extent do you concur with this analysis?
There is some truth to that. I mean, this term originally referred to high-ranking Venezuelan military officers involved allegedly in large-scale drug trafficking, extortion, and cooperation with Colombian and Mexican cartel. When it's applying a terrorist label, the signal here is twofold. First, it considers the Venezuelan security apparatus itself to be a transnational criminal terrorist activity, and second, it intends to escalate legal, financial, and intelligence pressure not just on individuals, but on the institutional machinery which keeps Maduro in power. And this would allow the US to pursue much more aggressive financial targeting, intelligence operations, interdiction efforts, and also even international cooperation against any actor linked to this Venezuelan military trafficking network, and creates diplomatic leverage by framing the Venezuelan regime not merely as corrupt, but as an active threat to hemispheric security. Now, the argument there by the Democrats is that Cartel de los Soles is a loosely defined concept without a coherent organizational structure, that it's not an actual organization. However, the counter-argument to that is that the reality of the Venezuelan military elite systematically using state power to run criminal enterprises, laundering money through foreign banks, and collaborating with Hezbollah-linked networks, destabilizing the real undeniable, no matter how you consider it. So, and it's not new for the U.S. to for instance, to designate state sponsors of terrorism. Those applications have been applied to other states like Iran in the past. So this seems to be a similar step, and just because there isn't a formal registration for this network doesn't mean that it does not exist and does not fit a conspiracy charge framework in its entirety, and could be not engaging in terror induced activities. But more importantly than simply circumventing Congress, this is part of a broader U.S. effort, as the administration interprets it, to collapse the financial ecosystem sustaining Maduro. It's also a deterrence move against countries and companies that are considering deals with Venezuela's military, signaling that such interactions could now trigger terrorism-related penalties.
All right, ma'am, with that, I'd like to thank you for taking out time, of course, putting that into context for our viewers. Of course, I was highlighting the reaction that has come in from Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro. He's called this move a ridiculous lie meant to justify what he claims as illegal military intervention. Washington claims the cartel is run by President Maduro and has issued a $50 million reward for his capture, although Venezuela now has denied that it exists. The U.S. has deployed its largest aircraft carrier, the USS Gerald R. Ford, and its troops near Venezuelan waters, targeting alleged drug trafficking. At least 83 people have been killed in strikes on boats since September. A top U.S. military officer will, of course, as I mentioned, visit Trinidad and Tobago. This is a part of pressure operations. Airlines are cancelling flights, and the FAA has warned of heightened risks as well, signaling rising tensions in the region. Listen in to what the Vice President of Venezuela has stated.
Hoy Marco Rubio, ustedes saben, sacó otro refrito, que si el Cartel de los Soles, que ahora es organización terrorista, ridículos, son unos ridículos. Se repiten y se repiten y se repiten y por eso van de fracaso en fracaso.